Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts to get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I know you guys have been missing my voice now for at least the last couple of days. Well, we are back on a beautiful Tuesday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us a part of your day. We are live on every platform known to man, Roku, iHeartRadio, and all social media platforms. Like, subscribe, hit the bell button, keep you up to date on future and past shows. I got a special treat for you as well, for all you Dallas Cowboy fans up there. We've been going back-to-back up on this, and I've got CFL Sports' own Jordan Tucker going to be joining us here in a couple minutes. But boy, oh boy, round one, if you didn't get enough of that for both hockey and basketball, just wait till you see what round two's got in store for us. Great stuff. By the way, too, we had the Kentucky Derby not too long ago. Congratulations to the winning horse. And by the way, NHL Draft Lottery was today. Congratulations to the San Jose Sharks. They are now the number one overall pick. So, and that's the first time ever in their franchise history that they've got the number one overall pick. So Jordan Tucker is going to be joining us here in a few minutes, but I'm going to tell you one thing that was not a good sight to see. We're 2 games in, and boy, oh boy, I am hearing crickets here in 303 and also in 720 as well. And you know what I'm talking about, everybody in the Denver area. The Denver Nuggets right now are getting cooked. And Anthony Edwards, boy, he is taking souls left and right. Here's the thing you got to understand about this, is that this is what we've been talking about in previous episodes here about who is going to be the face of the league, you know, as a domestic player. Because at this point in the NBA, we have relied so heavily on LeBron James for years and years, because back then, it's been sprinkles of Kobe. It's been sprinkles of MJ. It's been sprinkles of multiple different players. But ultimately now, we're kind of coming into the transition time where the league is not heavily dependent on LeBron James. And again, we love watching him play. He still plays at a high level at his age, but we need something new. And we know this past college basketball season has not been great as far as the numbers and ratings. But as you can see right now, Anthony Edwards is proving his case. This is going to be the next face of this league, and respectfully so. The guy's got great shooting range. He's got that killer instinct, and at the same time, he's spreading the ball around to a lot of his teammates on the floor. And you know what? This is the best-looking Minnesota team that I think I have ever seen in quite a long time, since the Kevin Garnett years. But to be honest with you, Denver, and I like them, and I like Jokic, and I like Jamal Murray, But this looks like a colossal collapse. And here's the thing. Champions at times has one of two routes. One, you either stay consistent and you play at the high level and yet go and build a dynasty, or number two, it's a massive hangover. And I know that from somebody who's experienced this for years, living in the Vegas Valley my entire life and now moving in Denver. It is the hardest fall anybody can have, right? And so in the end, I think we will still respect the Denver Nuggets with their talent, with their bench, with everybody that they've got up on the floor. But I think this time now, Minnesota looks like they are the team that wants to win it all. I know what a lot of people would say about, well, Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, who cares? They're all playing collectively. And I think a lot of that has to be from their pivotal star in Anthony Edwards. The reason, I think a lot of people have kind of come to this conclusion is because look at what he does on the floor. Look at how he basically carries up the team. And if you actually see on post interviews, the guy is an animal. And at the same time, this is what we have been dying to have now for years. Since MJ, since Magic, since, Kobe. And it's finally here. And we can respect the talent. By the way, Anthony Edwards came from not a great draft, and he's outshining all of his competition. But I'm not going to glaze this so heavily because we know sometimes there's other teams that could very much surprise us. I mean, look at Indiana. Look at OKC. Look at a lot of these teams. I mean, hell, Orlando had an absolute great year. This is a good note. I'm not going to deny this at all. The bench and the transition for this team was great. I think Paolo Banchero, if you give him another player and you get somebody that can complement this roster, I think the roster would be really good. And in the Eastern Conference, that's not that strong. I mean, you got Orlando and you got Indiana right now that has been playing at their best basketball. And so this is the transition of the league now. But when you start looking at Minnesota, which I've been watching the Twins for years, okay? And I've even, I've watched tapes from their 91 World Series championship. And even when I watched Joe Mauer and Justin Morneau and multiple players, I mean, the Twins have had great rosters. I've watched the Vikings for years. I mean, they still hold a lot of relevancy. And at the same time, let's see what happens with J.J. McCarthy. And with a new look defense, hopefully Harrison Smith gets some help in the secondary. But I like with what they're doing with this roster. And I'm sorry, NFL fans, but apparently we got to wait another week now for the NFL schedule. But at the same time, good for Minnesota. Good for them. This is the time that they've needed from here, especially in the basketball world. Because for years, we've watched Kevin Garnett, we've watched multiple players, even Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio come through here. So this is the best I think we've seen right now of the Timberwolves. So I like this. I think we can honestly appreciate the talent, and we can appreciate so much about what we're getting in the current NBA playoffs. Nothing against Denver. There's still going to be a problem in this league for years. But the time right now is the best time watching playoff basketball. And lately, I have not watched a whole lot of basketball. Sometimes I've got my own opinions of what I've been seeing in basketball in recent years. But this could get me driving to a television for sure. I think this is probably by far the best performance I think I've seen in the series and even throughout the entirety of the playoffs. So good for Minnesota, good for Anthony Edwards, and good for the rest of the team collectively playing at their best level this time around. All right, so he knows an awful lot about the Dallas Cowboys, and of course, too, we have to now wait another week for the actual schedule to be coming out from here, but he knows a thing or two, especially with some serious answers, what's going to happen with the Cowboys moving forward. So joining us, CFO Sports' own Jordan Tucker. Well, unfortunately, we got to wait another week. I know a lot of people, you and I, have been excited for the schedule, but you know what? It's just one of those things we get excited for. We got to wait another week, but it's well worth the wait. So let's start with this, because the post-draft, I've said it, multiple times. There has been lots of clarities. There's been two different stages. The clarity we've seen from free agency and the clarity we've seen from the draft. Given what we've seen right now from the Dallas Cowboys, what's kind of the clarity and what's kind of what's kind of now the outlook that we're going to see going into the season for them?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think a lot of Cowboys fans, self-included, was kind of wondering, especially after the free agency, like, hey, where are we actually going? We know the debacle that happened last year in the playoffs versus the Green Bay Packers. So how were the Cowboys going to build off of that? So free agency came and went. We didn't do anything besides sign Eric Kendricks, pulled him away from San Francisco, and that was pretty much it. So we kind of sat on our hands, we're dormant. Then we go into the NFL draft. And a lot of people had high expectations, right? Maybe you're going to get a wide receiver in a Brian Thomas, or maybe go with the powerful running back in a Trey Benson. But it looked like the Cowboys were really focused on the trenches, right? So they went and got Tyler Guyton. They parlayed that with a third-round pick in Cooper Beebe here from Kansas City, who I love. I think he was the most exciting pick for a lot of Cowboys fans. But then you also got Marshawn Nealon, right? And then you got Kalen Carson. So I think what the Cowboys are trying to do is get that. I'm tired of getting punched on by the 49ers. Like, I think that's what the mindset is. We're getting tough, physical, nasty guys that's going to be able to battle in the trenches. They're not pretty names, right? It's not sexy anymore. These are tough, hardworking, blue-collar players. And I think that's the mindset that the Cowboys are going to go into the season, because we've known that we have the talent, right? We have the CeeDee Lambs, we have the Micah Parsons, we have the Dak Prescotts, we brought Ezekiel Elliott back. So we got those guys and Marcus Lawrence, but it's that second layer. It's those guys that are really going to play an important role, especially throughout a 17-game season. And I think where the Cowboys kind of just fall off the map year after year is when we face those tough, physical, dominant teams in the playoffs. So I think that's what Mike McCarthy is trying to fix when it comes to our roster.
So I know that, from given just the outcome from last season after losing to the Green Bay Packers in the playoffs and what it's basically looking like right now for the state of the Cowboys, a lot of people have a lot of question marks, and to me, I kind of feel like, I would just love to see what 5 weeks playing into the season really looks like for the Cowboys. So I've been saying this, and I'm a firm believer that I think when it comes to who's got the added pressure, some would say Dak, some would say multiple other players, or some would maybe say the coach. I feel like Mike McCarthy's got a lot of the pressure on his shoulders because you lose Dan Quinn. You lost an awful lot of, defensive pieces. So is it fair to say that I think right now, when getting this team rallied up with Philadelphia retooling and really kind of getting more juice, and then watching Washington get now their new franchise quarterback, I mean, is it kind of safe to say the pressure's on Mike McCarthy this season?
Yeah, naturally, I would say so, right? And I think it's kind of unfair pressure, but of course, he's on a 1-year prove-it deal as well, along with Dak Prescott as of now. Hopefully that will change. But, I think Mike McCarthy, since he came in, right, we lose Dak in 2020, had a decent season with Cooper. Like, he was kind of just grasping straws, with Ben DiNucci and Andy Dalton. Turn around again, had a 12-5 season. Dak goes down. You're still keeping things afloat. So overall, Mike McCarthy has improved the culture and the winning tradition. I mean, just making back-to-back playoff appearances. That sounds brand new and it sounds crazy from the Cowboys standpoint, but that's something that Mike McCarthy has done. But I think what Cowboys fans and maybe the front office wanted Mike McCarthy to get us over that additional hump, to get us to that NFC Championship game. So I think that's the expectations. Now, personally, I think it's an unfair expectation. Hey, bro, you got to do something that we haven't done in 30 years or you're fired. Like, okay. So, I mean, I think it's kind of unfair for Mike McCarthy. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. Now, we mentioned the schedule. We have a brutal schedule, and it depends, if the NFL wants to punish us or be a little bit lenient, because you could see a situation where we might pay San Francisco on Sunday Night Football and then turn around and play Baltimore, and then our division's getting a lot better. So it's going to be interesting to see, how our schedule overall plays out. But I think from the Cowboys standpoint, what they have to understand is our division, like you just said, is getting tougher. Right. It used to be the NFC least. I call it the NFC beast right now. We know what Philly's doing. Dan Quinn, who was a former coach, in Atlanta, but also now was in Dallas, but now he's in Washington. He's kind of building their team in the previous Cowboys image and got Jaden Daniels. He got some wide receivers there. The Giants are still kind of like that bottom tier team, but they got some talent. Right? They got Malik Neighbors. They got Tyler Newton. So they got some talent too as well. So the only thing that is keeping the Dallas Cowboys, in my opinion, above the pack is number 4. And they ain't paid them yet, so that's the one thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how things shake out. But I think the pressure will fall on Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott, and they're the actual human shields for the Dallas Cowboys front office, and they'll get away with murder every time.
So, and since you mentioned of that with Dak Prescott, here's where I kind of lay this down with this situation. And, and I'd like your opinion up on this as well, because I think, this season, we kind of know with what we're seeing right now with Dak Prescott's contract situation. Eventually, CeeDee Lamb, he's going to start, asking for a contract extension. And I think it would be fair for me to really give him that, because this is what keeps the offense very viable. And then I would say maybe outweigh what the market looks like when it comes to Micah Parsons. Now, I do love him as, a hybrid player, very explosive on the defense. So when you go into this season, because my thought is, I think this might be Dak Prescott's last season from what we've seen from here. But I would definitely extend CeeDee Lamb, and I would definitely end up kind of weighing out what the market will look like for Micah Parsons. What, in your opinion, how would you really kind of play this out? Because to me, if right now the situation is they're not going to pay Dak that $60 million or even higher from this point, they may go a different direction, but you at the very least protect the offensive line so that if in fact the next quarterback that does come in, this is a team that's got a healthier line, this is a team that still has a viable offense, how would you kind of, see this for the Cowboys moving forward?
If it's me, I would extend Dak Prescott actually last year, right? But I would definitely did it before the draft and before free agency, because that would have cleared up cap space for me to actually make those moves and then ink a CD deal and clear even more cap space and maybe be a little bit more proactive in free agency. So, me personally, this doesn't work without Dak Prescott. I know that there's a lot of lazy narratives when it comes to Dak, but he's the only thing stopping us from being the New York Giants. I think people really get that mixed up. Is that, we'll have a good offensive line and we'll have CD and we'll have some running backs in this defense. No, we were the punching bags when Dak was down. Remember that 2020 season. Now, granted, when we had Cooper Rush in 2021, we won a few games, but we were running the ball. We were running crazy, but we don't have Zeke and Tony Pollard anymore. And our defense wasn't playing like they were playing that 2021 season. So in order to compete in a division that's going to have Jalen Hurts, now Jaden Daniels, Daniel Jones, right? But they're going to eventually get a quarterback in New York. If you change that, and let's say, and I like Trey Lance, no knock to the kid, but there's going to be a huge learning curve if you're wanting to win a Super Bowl now, if you're really wanting to go all in, if Jerry Jones continues to say, I ain't got much more time and, I'll do it, then you have to have Dak Prescott, who was the MVP runner-up, as your quarterback, period. There's no way you can replace him. There's no bridge guy. I could say, okay, who would give me a guy? Give me some. Could you bring in Derek Carr? Do you think if we got Derek Carr, we're a Super Bowl contender? No. If you got Baker Mayfield, are we no? So a lot of these names that people list are guys that we can plug in. It's not going to be a simple fix. Shedeur Sanders, love him. Shedeur Sanders would have winning no games in Colorado. Let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't winning no games. So it's and he's not going to go 22, 23. So as long as you have Dak Prescott out there, you have a chance. My frustration, I think a lot of Cowboys fans' frustration is, when are we going to go all in? I got Vegas in the background, right? Sometimes I just left Vegas. You just got to push all your chips in and then say whatever happens, happens. And if you crap out, okay, maybe then you go through that rebuild. But the biggest problem when it comes to Dallas Cowboys is they won't go all in and they won't tear it down. They kind of just in the middle. You know what I'm saying? You got $1,000 in your pocket. You're not going to push all your chips in. I might put 200, 300 or not gamble. You're going to have to pick a side. And I think that if you really want to win and show your fan base in this organization that you're committed to win a championship, not a few games, not a division, not a playoff game here or an NFC championship appearance, Dak Prescott is the straw that stirs the drink. And if he's not out there, things definitely change in Dallas.
So what's interesting about that, since you brought it up, is the all-in mentality, because we know we've heard, Jerry Jones put it out there that, look, we're going all in with a lot of our chips. And, and again, I mean, we've seen many, many teams change their identities very quickly. I mean, we watched the Chargers, they changed their identity. We've seen, a lot of teams basically change it to where wide receivers are being traded. And like now Houston is basically loaded in a lot of this. So, I mean, this has to be the kind of year that if you put a narrative out there, that's something where this team really does have to get over to the hump. And I think, i.e., you got to clean the skeletons out of the closet against Green Bay, because already twice now for Mike McCarthy, this has now happened with two different quarterbacks, from Aaron Rodgers and now Jordan Love. So I think ultimately, I mean, this has to be the kind of season that if they're going all up in there, they have to be willing to back that up, right?
Yeah, but it's too late. It's way too late. It's like me going Christmas shopping on, Valentine's Day. Like, the market's already been picked over. So now what we're going to sit back and do is say, okay, who are some guys that maybe be roster casualties that can get cut, that maybe we can pick up in camp? And okay, but that's not all in, right? We're seeing teams around the league constantly go all in, especially if we look across our division, right? Philadelphia is going all in. We saw the Rams go all in. Like, we're seeing teams like be aggressive, not only in the draft, but also in free agency. So when Jerry had said that in the Senior Bowl, of course, Cowboys fans' antenna went up. We thought Derrick Henry, making power moves. Like, okay, the old school Jerry is back. They sat on their hands and they did absolutely nothing. And then they backtracked their statement. Well, all in means, well, we're going to sign Dak Prescott and sign. Well, you haven't did that either. So what is, when it comes to all in, I think Jerry was kind of just talking, got pressed into a corner. So to my guy, Clarence Hill, and he was just talking, said all in. We ran with the narratives, but he necessarily doesn't mean it, because a lot of people from the outside think it's Jerry Jones. It's not Jerry. Jerry's just the mascot, him and Rowdy. But it's that Stephen Jones who was the real problem in Dallas, and all in isn't in his DNA. For people who do not know, right? When Jerry Jones, way back in the day, when I was just a young little pup, as a Dallas Cowboys fan, they went and signed Deion Sanders. Stephen Jones didn't want that to happen. So he's been screwed since a kid. Like, he was always kind of been messed up. He's all about the cap. He's all about winning the deals. It's not about putting the best players and the best talent around them. And granted, right, you don't just win a championship on paper, but sometimes when you have supreme talent, that C game, right, that off game, because think about Philadelphia even last year, they won a lot of close games. What was happening? It was just sometimes the talent, right? You might just have that random game where, okay, well, Julio Jones just wins you a game. It's kind of random. And I think that's what people don't understand, versus for us, if CeeDee Lamb is off or Dak Prescott is off, we're screwed. Like, there's no recovering from that. So everything's solely relying on one person pretty much when it comes to Dak. So I think that, me personally, that mentality needs to change. I know the fan base watching will love to see, okay, at least I know if we lose to the San Francisco 49ers or we lose to Detroit, hey, we loaded the talent. We went all in. We did everything that we can possibly do. I feel like from the Cowboys standpoint right now, there's no way as a fan or a media member who covers the team can really say that. I feel like, they're doing some things, but if it fails, it's Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott's fault, and we'll just get rid of them next year and move on and continue the same old 30-year cycle that we've been on, which a lot of Cowboys fans are frustrated about.
Man, I'll tell you one thing, and my realistic point up on this, and I'm crossing my fingers, man, because honestly, Dallas is a CeeDee Lamb injury away from this thing just not looking good. I mean, that's just been my biggest thing with it, because, again, like, I know a lot of people kind of look at, the Michael Gallup situation, which now being a part of the Raiders, I'm just like, well, here's the thing. They haven't had a solidified number two, respectfully, since, it's been a long time. And so I'm just like, if you ain't got somebody to end up picking that up, to helping CeeDee Lamb up on there, that offensive identity doesn't look the same. Now, I like their tight end. I think he's really going to look productive, because at first I'm like, Dalton Schultz, that's a big hit. Right. But once you got the tight end, I was like, okay, something pretty interesting from here.
Right. Yeah. And I agree, right? I think that, when it comes to our wide receivers, the strongest wide receiver core we had is when we had CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, and also Amari Cooper. But the problem was that season, right? You had Michael Gallup go down with the calf, right? And then he gets healthy. And then you have CeeDee go down with the concussion, and Amari Cooper goes down with the COVID. Like, it was just like they were never just in sync with that three-headed dragon. So now that we have Brandon Cooks, I feel like Brandon Cooks is a viable number 2 option, but he's on a 1-year deal, right? And then you add in Jake Ferguson. I think Jake Ferguson is going to take a massive leap, but you always want to load with more talent. Like, don't just be like, okay, we got 2 guys. That's all we need. Like, why not load the deck? Because you always need that extra layer for injuries. And like you said, sometimes for the Cowboys, one injury goes down, and then everything kind of disrupts, right? So last year at the linebacker room, we were all saying, even before the draft, we need more linebackers. We need more linebackers. We need more linebackers. Free agency. Let's go get more linebackers. Get more. We didn't do it. Bam. Then you have LVE go down. DeMarion Overshown down, who's a phenomenal rookie that we're all excited about. He goes down. And then everything just looks depleted because you didn't have that second layer of talent. So that's, for me personally, when it comes to roster building, I'm trying to avoid, but for some reason, the Cowboys just don't see it that way. So like I said, overall, we're talented enough to compete. Like, as long as number 4 is out there, we're going to compete. But I know that everybody, self-included, we want to win a championship. Like, if we get to an NFC championship game, yay, Dak, you finally did it. And then we lose by 20 to the 49ers. I am still pissed off. Like, I'm even more pissed off that happened, because that means I spent more money going to that game, which is probably going to be super expensive. So, I'm trying to build a championship roster. And right now it just doesn't feel championship is. It just feel like, we'll be good. We'll be good. 11 wins, 12 wins, and we'll see what happens. But it's like, why not go out there and say, I did everything I can do to Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott. I went all in and you failed. Then it's easier to evaluate Dak Prescott. If I gave you, I gave you CeeDee Lamb, bro. I gave you Brian Thomas Jr. I gave you Brandon Cooks and Jake Ferguson. Then we lowered the clip and, we got Derrick Henry and you still failed. Maybe you're not the guy. Maybe you're not the guy. But now it's like, could you really say it's Dak when our run defense couldn't stop me at running back all last year? Or, it's just one of those weird situations. So,
yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting situation. And like I said, Dallas, to me, always seems to give me question marks every single year, because I don't know what version of Dallas I'm going to get, and then it comes back to the same narrative where it's just like, oh, this team actually looks real good. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, this is the same team. It just had a different feel to it. So I'm like, so this is where, I look at Dallas and hopefully things really do pan out. But this is kind of the hard-nosed hypothetical question, right? Let's say this season doesn't end up hitting the expectations as many Dallas fans are hoping that it would. And let's say this is the point where it's just like, Mike, we appreciate what you're doing, but you're gone. You know what I mean? And so, like, the coach now is gone. Then let's say Dak, they're not re-signing him, and all of a sudden they let him go. How would you end up addressing this? Because, to be honest, like, the way I look at it, I know people kind of throw the narrative, well, what if Belichick coached? To me, it's like another episode of 2 angry men screaming at each other. And I'm like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work with Jerry. But so my thought is, you get at least another competent coach, one that doesn't necessarily act as a yes man for all these years that they kept of hiring. You get somebody like, he has control of the team, knows exactly what their value and the worth is. And I'd say next year, because next year's defensive heavy. So you go and you get some depth guys up on defense. But how would you then address the quarterback? Because some people would say maybe you get somebody up from the outside, or thoughts on Trey Lance. There's multiple question marks from here. But hypothetically, if that were to happen, if you're in the shoes of Stephen Jones, how would you address this if this was to happen?
Well, they didn't give Trey Lance the extend his 5th-year option, right? So if it's me, then I'm considering maybe using a power play and going up and get a guy in the draft and just start young and start all over. But I think that's the frustrating part because I don't want to go through a reset. Like, I honestly, I think that the frustrating part for me, I'm speaking for me, is that I felt like we were on the cuffs, right? We were there, like we were just floating around. Like there was teams in our division, right? Philly, I feel like we were better than Philly last year. There was Detroit. We beat the Rams. So we were in there, just that 49ers mountain that we had to climb, and we fell short. But I felt like since we fell short, we started peeling back that onion a little bit where we're trying to get back to the team that we were last year. So for me personally, if things hit the fan, and here's the fun part about this year, we won't be able to fake it. Now, we kind of faked it last year, right? And granted, Cowboys fans get upset when I said this. We really didn't beat nobody with some elk about them. Philly, Detroit, Rams early. Like, so there wasn't those games where, okay, we went to we beat San Fran. Okay, we smoked them, or we smoked the Buffalo Bills, or we smacked up the Dolphins with their high flying off. Like, there wasn't those kind of games. So this year we will know. If we get punched in the mouth by San Fran again, get turned around, get punched in the mouth by the Ravens, we struggle versus Washington and lose to Joe Burrow, and we go up to Pittsburgh, and then we'll kind of know, like, all right, this ain't it, right? But I feel like this team can really rally together and make a run, but it's going to be a lot more difficult and challenging because I feel like this roster isn't what it was the past few years, right? So we can see it. Getting Trayvon Diggs back is going to be a huge spark, right? Deron Bland's playing phenomenal. Will Stephon Gilmore return? Probably not, because they probably can't afford it. You have Ezekiel Elliott. I know people are kind of on Zeke, but Zeke is still a weapon, whether y'all want to hear that or not. You have some guys taking a second-year leap as well with our younger guys. So we are going to be competitive. But once again, it really goes back to championship competitive, right? Do I feel like we could go to Baltimore and beat Baltimore? You know what I'm saying? Like, so those are type of games. I'm a young offensive line. So, if things hit the fan, it's going to be a rebuild. But honestly, I'll probably just turn my channel into like a book club or something, because I ain't got time for it. I don't have the time for the whole, project quarterback kind of float in limbo, have a 3-4 win season for 2 years. Then maybe we get the guy, and then like, I'm just,
yeah, absolutely. And, and like I said, when I saw that pick from Dallas where they went and took an offensive tackle, I thought to myself this: well, they addressed it getting Tyler Smith, and then they go in and they get another tackle. So my thought is, okay, they're going to keep this offensive line healthy. This almost reminds me of Dak's rookie year when Travis Frederick was still one of their top studs on the line. And then you still had guys like Zach Martin and multiple others on that line. Is this kind of almost a little bit of this building feeling that I think Dallas is kind of doing with that offensive line to assure Dak's health at this point?
I don't think so. I think what they're doing, right, they're just cleaning up their holes, right? Because if you would have went and kept Tyron Smith for the deal that he had in the Jets, was very easy to do, right? But they didn't. They let Tyron Smith walk. I think you probably don't have to address the offensive line again in the first round, because I like Tyler Guyton. He has a lot of upside potential, but you're taking a right side player. He played predominantly the right side, and you're tossing him over to the left, and there's no wall, right? Because when Tyler Smith came in, you had Tyron Smith, and then you had I forgot who was it, Connor McGovern. You had Connor McGovern, so you had some guys there in case of emergency if he falls. Okay, you're still kind of good. I feel like the problem with Tyler Guyton is he has to work. You have to work at left tackle, bro. You have to work at left tackle, because if not, you have Chima Udoga, Matt Walesk. It gets dark, right? So I think it's going to be very important that Tyler Guyton hits the ground running. So I think that's kind of the thing. When it comes to the offensive line, are they trying to do a rebuild? Yes, but I also think the Cowboys, honestly, they're churning offensive linemen. You look at how many offensive linemen we drafted in the last 2 to 3 years. It's just been an outstanding rate, and they don't count the guys that we missed on, right? They don't count the Matt Walesko, the Josh Balls. They just grab an offensive lineman, hopefully it works out. But I think that's really building for the future, because you'll know who your guys are. Tyler Smith, he's one of your guys, right? Zach Martin, probably give him another 2 to 3. Hopefully Terrence Steele recovers from the injury and plays a lot better than he did last year. So you got your 3 core guys. Cooper Beebe, who I think is going to be a phenomenal talent, but you also have TJ Bass, Tyler Guyton, Awesome Richards, is it Earl Bostic? Like, you have a lot of different guys out there, so hopefully it'll work. But I think the Cowboys really just need to get focused and stronger in the trenches, and hopefully this draft class is going to be that class to do it.
Yeah, hopefully so. Honestly, I love that BB pick. I think, honestly, when I watched tape and I watched film, I was like, damn, they got themselves a solid one that I think could really, really help, especially with that interior side. Because, again, you could address the outsides, but if nobody's basically there giving you that added protection in the interiors, it makes it harder to run the football in the trenches. And it makes it a lot harder to even make quick decisions to throw the ball if somebody ain't open from there. And then that's where a lot of things tend to fail from there. But yeah, it's going to be interesting of the season. But as I've said, I hope all the best for Dallas. And I'm hoping that at least, again, they prove me wrong. Because I say this all the time. I hope, coaches and teams prove me wrong all the time. Because in the end, I know when going by realistic expectations, but then in the end, if I start getting a trend and I'm like, oh, okay, this looks a little different, didn't see this one coming, this is where it really makes me excited as a football fan to really see what the future beholds from here. But Jordan, appreciate you coming on, man. Where can everybody find everything you need to know about those Cowboys?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, my guy. You can follow me on all social media platforms at jtuck151. That's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that fun stuff, man. My YouTube channel is CFO Sports. Come on through, man. We talk a lot of Cowboys football. We also do a lot of NFL draft stuff as well, break down a lot of prospects. Even doing boxing right now. So I was just out in Vegas the past week. I'll be back next month for their fight. So it's doing a lot of sports content, man, just staying busy, staying working. But ultimately, my home is the Dallas Cowboys, and that's what I love to do. And like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty and question marks when it comes to this season. But I know at the end of the day, as long as I got 4 out there, I got 11, I got 7, we're going to compete. We're going to compete, and we're going to be all right. So we'll see how it all fares out. But thanks for having me on, my guy.
Absolutely, man. And I'll tell you what, though, like New Orleans, this is what I'm shooting for this year. And so I'm like, I'm pushing all the content I can and just, make that trip, because it's one hell of an experience, especially being there up and in the media booth. But I'll tell you what, though, man, that fight with Canelo, I'm like, he still has it. He's proven he still is the best fighter currently. And so anybody that comes in the ring, you better watch out from there. But
man, it was a fun time out there, man. Canelo's definitely one of those guys, electricity. And then, next month you got Tank Davis coming out there, and the energy is already through the building, man. Like, those tickets are going crazy. Always a good time in Vegas, man. I love Vegas. I've always loved it since I was a kid, and now to be able to kind of turn it to my second home, man. So to MGM Grand for always having me out there. So yeah, man, Super Bowl was crazy out there as well, and I expect next month to be even crazier.
I tell you, we certainly do put on a show anytime, any day, any week. That's usually what my hometown's all about. But, I'm hoping, because, I'll be back about there in Christmas time, but I'm hoping, again, they keep up what they're doing. They're doing great stuff. Yeah. And hopefully we get a lot more gigs coming through and through. But since you mentioned draft analysis, who's a guy that you've looked at that you think, man, this guy might be really, really interesting to look at for his rookie season? Is there someone you had in mind?
For this year's class coming up? Oh man, there is a lot. Where can I had to pick one, right? Kind of put me on the spot. A guy that I really liked, I should have blocked them on Twitter, I guess, but the Green Bay Packers kind of snagged both of my guys, and Jordan Morgan, left tackle / left guard out of Arizona, and also Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker, man. So I think they're going to be a phenomenal talent. I'm excited to watch them play. I hate to say it, but the Philadelphia Eagles had a fun draft with Quinyon Mitchell and getting Cooper DeJean, so they got some talent as well. But also, I think for me personally, the team that I'm excited to watch, kind of see how it all unfolds, is in New England, right? They got my guy Jalen Polk out of Washington, who's out of Lufkin, Texas, same spot as Dez Bryant, the wide receiver. And then they circled back around and got Javon Baker out of UCF, who's another phenomenal Big 12 wide receiver who I love in this class. So there's a lot of different guys. I like this draft class as a whole. I think there's a lot of talent, a lot of depth in different layers, especially at the running back position, but we didn't get one. So, of course, all my Knowles out there. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun class, man. But I would say The one guy that I'm really excited to watch, I would say, is probably going to be Edgar Cooper or Peyton Wilson that went to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's funny, man, because I thought both those picks from there and where they landed at, I was like, they're going into some really serious defensive identities, and I think it's honestly going to end up working out really well for them. And yeah, this draft was absolutely loaded, especially when it's like you need to get offensive players from either the line or the receivers or a quarterback.
Mhm.
I liked what New England's finally doing. This is finally a Belichick, like an anti-Belichick type draft for them because they get their franchise. They have a good enough left tackle that now they can slowly build that line and then go and give. I like they got Jalen Polk. Now you can get some offensive weapons, but it's important you have the franchise quarterback. So I love this, man. I think this draft alone, we're not going to see for at least another couple of years, but I thought this was great. A lot of teams now have found new identities. So let's see how all of this comes together by the time the schedule releases and then by the time kickoff starts to happen from there. Appreciate you, my guy, Jordan, man. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see what is in fate for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, my guy. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Yeah, I think it, as I've said, I mean, I've had Doug Brooks who was on, and he was very, very honest when it came to, what we were basically seeing with the Dallas Cowboys. And having another one there, I thought it was great. And Jordan provided a lot of expectations from there and at the same time, a lot of insight. So appreciate him for jumping on by. Really, really interesting. But yeah, we've got a lot to talk about from here, and especially when we are looking at the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. It's going to be really, really fun, really interesting from here on out. I'll have the rest of that, but we're going to take a quick break because I have double top 10s, NBA and NHL playoff teams. This is right after the first round. So this is the ranking from it. So it's not currently. This was after the first round because those who have seen my social medias, I posted them up out there. But we'll take a quick break and we will come back here and I will explain all of those top 10s for you guys. All right, guys. So as I've said before, NHL Stanley Cup playoffs and, of course, the NBA playoffs have been scorching red hot all throughout it. And it's been exciting on both ends. But what's also been really scorching up red hot? A lot of my best expertise betting lines when you go to BetUS.com, the official partner of the Snake Sports Talk Show. They have hundreds of thousands of different bet lines to choose from of your choice, with playoff action going on, Major League Baseball action going on, and, of course, future bets and prop bets that are going to be coming up as well. And prime predictions, I cannot wait to do them by the next NFL season. But they've got you covered on all of it. That's why BetUS has been the best in the market in 30 years. Give BetUS a try. All the best betting lines to choose from, and finding all the best ones for you to win yourself some cash. And also check out the casino play. Absolutely, when you go online to BetUS.com. BetUS, where the game begins.
Listen up, sports fans. Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. We've also got hundreds of new casino games, including the coolest new European slots, and our live dealers are waiting for you at the table. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action. BetUS, where the game begins.
best coverage around the world of sports? Jam-packed with an all-star interview lineup? Then the best place to find it all, sports and entertainment, is right here. Join Jake Silva on the Snake Sports Talk Show, presented by SeatGeek and BetUS. Weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on Sports Wave Network.
All right, folks. Well, I finally got my top 10s. For soon, I will have my NFL top 10 teams post-draft, post-free agency, and what will basically outlook for the next up-and-coming season. But for now, I've got my top 10 NHL and NBA teams after round one. So I'm excited for both because in the end, I kind of know with what I'm getting from here. So, I mean, this was a great round one. It was actually a ton of fun. I think we definitely kind of understand with every single one of their identities. So here's how I have it broken down. And here we go with the NHL. First off, NHL top 10.
Rank them up.
Yeah, it's time. It's game
The top 10 NHL teams according to Jake.
All right. Here we go to start with number 10.
Number 10.
So the number 10 team for me is the Toronto Maple Leafs because I think in that round against Boston Bruins, they showed some fight in them, but in the end, it just was not enough. And look, I like the Maple Leafs. I like with what they've done. But the problem of it is that when they are faced with a lot of adversity, they kind of not show up in a lot of areas. And again, I think Joseph Woll is a very, very good goaltender. So there is some positive hopes from there. But I think you gotta deal away Mitch Marner. You got to get some capital, get at least, some players up and into the building. But then at the same time, I just don't think Sheldon Keefe is really the right answer for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But again, they showed some heart, and I've got them there at number 10.
Number 9.
The number 9 team for me is Vegas Golden Knights. And the reason of this being is that if you listen to Bruce Cassidy's interview after the loss against the Dallas Stars, okay, 9 players were coming off of surgery. It was horrible. But in the end, like my hometown, our battle cry is, we are battle born. That's what the Vegas Golden Knights are. I don't want to hear about this stuff, about this LTIR stuff, because they're clowning on them up on this. They're like, oh, that didn't work out for you, did it? It doesn't matter. Because in the end, this team is going to continue to be a problem for the next few years. It was a 10-year kind of thing. So in the end, Vegas, they played hard, they played strong, and I thought this was my favorite series all throughout the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. So I really, really enjoyed that particular series, in my opinion. So I have them there at number 9.
Number 8.
8 team for me is the Boston Bruins, and for multiple reasons is because how could that series continuously linger on? I mean, Jim Montgomery, he dodged a bullet from here because I thought that having the series controlled and then eventually losing their momentum was just another thing, as I said, from last season, where if they didn't learn their lesson and they got eliminated in the first round for the second straight year, it would have been all bad news for Jim Montgomery. They dodged a bullet. They survived. David Pastrnak was the game winner from there. Very impressive play. Boston, I don't know how good that they'll be, at least throughout the remainder of the series, but they got the Florida Panthers. It'll be interesting to see how they come out on top on this, but I have them there at number 8.
Number 7.
7 team for me is the Dallas Stars, because ultimately they were battling with a lot of adversities all throughout that entire series against the Vegas Golden Knights. But it was a great, great series because It was what I anticipated. Dallas has a really good defensive front. But the only problem I have with them moving forward, and especially against the Colorado Avalanche, is they don't score enough. They're kind of slow when it comes to scoring opportunities, even though Wyatt Johnston has given you clutch scoring in multiple occasions, and then you've got Jason Robertson. Dallas, it is going to be a handful for them to have to handle that particular hyper-scoring offense. But I think it's going to be an interesting series from here on. I have them there at number 7.
Number 6.
Next to me is the Vancouver Canucks, because to me, I love their offensive core, but I think right now what's a question mark for me is, and we've had multiple news now, Thatcher Demko is not going to be available until Game 4. That should literally scare you if you are facing the Edmonton Oilers, who made an absolute quick work of the LA Kings, and you've got a defensive front, but with the goaltending being questionable, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to survive this up into round 2, but I thought it was a good series against Nashville. But Nashville, they gave them a run at their money. But Vancouver, they survived. They go up there at number 6.
Number 5.
To me is the one hyper-scoring offensive team that's on a mission is the Edmonton Oilers. I think Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl and their other X factors, Zach Hyman, they really have been playing at their absolute best. And it's good stuff. I mean, ultimately, when you start looking at this through and through and how all of this really comes together, goaltending, Stuart Skinner, he's having a real good goaltending season. And in the end, I think in the end, Edmonton has shown that they have proved to be the tough team coming out of the gate. But I think that series against Vancouver, that's going to be a complete mismatch. But I have them at number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4 team for me that I really have liked watching with their offense is the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, Jake Gensel and multiple others have been clicking at the right time. But can Rod Brind'Amour really get them up over the top? They've got a tough series matchup now against the New York Rangers, who are also just as hyper-scoring, but their defense does play to the same level. I'm going to like this series either way. But Carolina, against their previous opponent, I mean, they made quick work. Defensively, passing game, everything was just working perfectly for the Carolina Hurricanes. I got them at number 3.
Number 3.
At number 4. My number 3 team, is the team that really made serious quick work of the Winnipeg Jets, is the Colorado Avalanche. I like them coming into this series. They literally caught me by surprise, because after that Game 1 against the Jets, where it was 7-6, that was a horrible performance on both goaltenders' end. But you know what was really good? It lit a fire where they started becoming hyper-aggressive scoring, as I anticipated. This team is on a mission, and just like the Edmonton Oilers, all their offensive pieces is working, and this is without Gabriel Landeskog. So I think Colorado, watching that series against Dallas Stars, it is hard to really contain this team moving forward.
Number 2.
To me personally, I have the Florida Panthers here upon this one, because I love with what they've done offensively since the trade deadline. And in the end, they were able to beat Tampa Bay in grand fashion. And Kyle Okposo and Vladimir Tarasenko, you're seeing right now how well the offense really is playing. Now, again, I know people are going to react to, well, they lost 5-1, but here's the thing. Florida and Paul Maurice, they're not panicking. Paul Maurice even said it, just take a breather. Florida's not going to panic. We've been in this scenario once before. We know Boston has experience from here, and I guarantee you from this, Florida is going to make this Such a great series through and through. So I have them there up at number 2, and here's my number 1 team.
Number 1.
One team that made quick work of those Washington Capitals is the New York Rangers. To me personally, I love their offense. I love their goaltending in Igor Shesterkin, and to be honest with you, that defense, damn, that defense plays really, really good. And again, people kind of, they chirp about, Matt Rempe, but in the end, I love with what I'm getting with the New York Rangers. Feels like everything collectively is coming together from here. So, the Rangers, they look like an unstoppable, unbeaten team. So that is going to be a tough team to really, really get past from not only just the Eastern Conference, but I'd say from the rest of the NHL. So that's my top 10 teams. So like I said, I got the 2 losers, and then there's the 8 that are remaining. So I think it's honestly respectfully sound from here. So Leafs, Knights, Bruins, Stars, Canucks, Oilers, Canes, Avs, Panthers, and the Rangers. So now we're going to shift our focus to the NBA top 10. Oops.
Number 10.
10 to me was the Philadelphia 76ers. Look, the reason that they are at number 10 is not because of Tobias Harris, and it's not because of Joel Embiid, but I love their coach in Nick Nurse. I love Tyrese Maxey. I think he has totally shown that he could put the Sixers on his shoulders. I just think you really have to get some serious work done with this organization, because how many times do I have to wait for this process to finally work through and through? You got eliminated in the first round against the Knicks. I honestly thought this team would have been a serious contender, but Joel Embiid disappointed me. Tobias Harris seriously disappointed me. I think they need to go and get themselves a legitimate shooter in that perimeter and even on the 3 mark. But they need to start really getting serious with as far as their defensive specialty. But Tyrese Maxey, man, this is the hope that you have for it. And Nick Nurse is no stranger. So I think the Sixers, they figured out some stuff, but there is still a lot to really work with this roster and this organization.
Number 9.
The team to me that I really am excited for their future is the Orlando Magic. Let's face it, Paolo Banchero, when you watch him on the arc and in the perimeter, the guy is clearly a shooter. Would you imagine if he got another one next to him, and especially with the transition of that from the starting 5 to the bench? The Magic, it was not easy of a situation against the Cleveland Cavaliers, but you know what? It was a fun series. I think the Magic have a very, very good future ahead of them, unfortunately being eliminated. But you know what? I love where this is going with Orlando. I have them there at number 9.
Number 8.
Team, to me, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell and multiple specialists as well have really, really played well. Now, it will be interesting watching them against Boston because, honestly, Boston has very tough defense. I don't know if this is honestly the game that's going to go well for the Cavs. But in the end, I thought I got a really good series against the Magic with Donovan Mitchell playing at his absolute best. But I think they really do need to get some more defensive specialists. But in the end, I liked with what they've been playing with in that series against the Magic. But I think, honestly, this might be hard for them to really get over that hump in the second round. So I have them at number 8.
Number 7.
7 team for me in the NBA is Dallas Mavericks. Because to be honest with you, I love with what I'm seeing with Luka Doncic. And furthermore, I love with what I'm seeing with Kyrie Irving. Now, again, I have them there at 7, but this could change. Because initially, that series against the Clippers, there were some of it I was a little bit questionable about for Dallas moving forward. But I feel like Kyrie Irving has clicked. I feel like Luka Doncic has clicked. We know that they are not an ultra defensive-centric team. As long as I'm getting points in the paint, and I'm getting the free throws, and I'm getting the three-pointers, I think this team could be very interesting moving forward up on it. I have them at number 7.
Number 6.
6 to me that I really have liked throughout their series against the Bucks and ended up upsetting them is the Indiana Pacers. They have such a quick and efficient transition from starting 5 to the bench. It's like I'm not dealing with 5 players. I'm dealing with 8 players total. And we know Tyrese Halliburton, Miles Turner, and Pascal Siakam with a weak Eastern Conference. You put them in the West, they're not going to be that great of a team. But in the East, where it's kind of weak, Pacers have really shown to me that they are very quick and efficient on transition, and they've been playing such fast-paced basketball. Pacers, no pun intended. But in the end, I think they really have been playing some quality basketball. I think it was right for me to put them there at number 6.
Number 5.
This team, to me, that I think was really right to put up there. Now, I know they're very Jalen Brunson they're very Jalen Brunson reliant, but I think the New York Knicks have found their identity moving forward. Now, the only question I have about this is, are you going to really lean into Jalen Brunson all series long? Because that gets very pressurizing and tiring very quickly. Now, Jalen Brunson has been playing a really good series against the Sixers, but in the end, I think ultimately, come the offseason, they're going to need to address another shooter from there because I think Jalen Brunson has earned the right to have another star next to him. And I think you've got the perfect identity from here. I think you've ultimately got the perfect transitioning game from starting to the bench. And in the end, they were playing really good defense from through and through against the Sixers until Tyrese Maxey, he had to basically put the hero cape on. But I thought the Knicks played some very good quality, efficient basketball. I have them there at number 5.
Number 4.
The number 4 team for me, and moving forward, it'll be an interesting series from here on. It'll be the Oklahoma City Thunder. I really have been liking with this young movement with the Thunder because Chet Holmgren and SGA, these guys are playing some serious ball. And in the end, who knows? Who knows what the outcome will be for the Thunder moving forward? But these guys, they're playing at a great level. And I think in the end, they're hungry in the playoffs. I don't know if this will be like the team that could very much get into the Western Conference. It'll be interesting. I have them going into the Western Conference, but let's see what the rest of this pans out. But I love their youth movement. I love a lot of their pieces, especially when it comes to the bench, much like with what I'm seeing with the Pacers, and even with what I'm seeing with the Knicks moving forward. I think the Thunder will be an interesting team, and they'll be a serious problem moving forward here at number 4.
Number 3.
Team to me that I know made quick work and a big-time sweep was Minnesota Timberwolves. Listen, Anthony Edwards is here, man. He has arrived. I think he is definitely the face of the franchise moving, or the face of the league moving forward. The guy's just got absolute ice in his veins. He's scary good. He's out there taking souls. And to be honest, collectively, Timberwolves team looked really good. And the fact that they made quick work of Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker just tells you that was an absolute failure for the Suns. So I think the Timberwolves moving forward, this team is scary good. And again, I know they're up 2-0. But remember, this was after round 1. But I love with what I'm seeing with Minnesota. Good for them. I have them there at 3.
Number 2.
2 team is going to be the Boston Celtics. In the Eastern Conference, as weak as it is, this team shows a lot of offense. This team shows a lot of defense. And now I don't think they'll show enough efficiency as what I'm seeing with Western Conference, but they are playing great basketball. Right? That's the one thing I will give them credit for. Now, depending on how the Eastern Conference really shapes up, especially when you go to the Eastern Conference Final, I think we will definitely see Boston there because I think the Cavaliers, they're going to give you a good series, but they're not going to give you they're just not going to be able to compete with that defense of Boston. So I think this has very much been a team that's been on a mission, and they've been playing very well in the Eastern Conference. I have them there at number 2, and here's my number 1 team.
Number 1.
One team that we know beating the Lakers in that previous series was the Denver Nuggets. Now, again, this could change again because I'm seeing with what has happened with the Minnesota Timberwolves and what they've been making with the Denver Nuggets. But to go back to that Lakers series, that was such, you already knew the Lakers were in trouble. And they were talking about, we want the Nuggets. I should have avoided that. I would not want to embarrass myself with a big brand as the Lakers are. And that was exactly what happened. Jamal Murray had shots all throughout that series. And Nikola Jokic is just continuing to prove he has been the best player in that series. He may not look like it right now, but in that series against the Lakers, there's no denying. That was a great, great series there for the Denver Nuggets. All right, so that is my top 10 teams from there. So Sixers, Magic, Cavs, Mavericks, Pacers, Knicks, Thunder, T-Wolves, Celtics, and the Nuggets. Now, as I said, it doesn't look like this right now, but we certainly do know that the Western Conference has some really, really good teams. And to be honest, Minnesota, they are on the right track. They're in the right position. And right now, with what is happening at this point, it's not looking good. But I think Minnesota is definitely taking it to Denver right now. And Denver is just they've got fire right on their foreheads. It's flaming up. They're panicking and they're in panic mode. So I think right now, Minnesota is looking like they are the team to beat right now. And they are certainly on a hot streak all the way from here. But yeah, both playoffs have been very exciting from here. I thought round 1, we certainly got what we knew that was pretty obvious. And then, of course, a ton of surprises. So I thought it was great. And now round 2, it's becoming even more interesting. And I cannot wait for that. Got my popcorn ready. Going to be glued up on that television, watching these matchups. It's going to be great from here on out. All righty, folks. Well, that's going to do it here from me on the Snake Sports Talk Show. Thank you all for tuning in and enjoying your time with me. Shout out to Jordan Tucker. Great stuff. The Dallas Cowboys and for the NFL moving forward. Loved his insights. Loved his analysis up on there. We are getting primed up with some great, great interviews. So you don't want to end up missing out on that. Like, follow, subscribe, hit the bell button for all latest notifications. We finally made it to 600, folks. We finally did. And we are on the road right now to 1K. Let's get ourselves there, guys. The road has never been stronger. I'm so excited for it. Well, we have been making great, great work. So thank you for your continued supports of the show. As you know, Roku, iHeartRadio, and all social media platforms known to man. Sponsored by BetUS. Go on to BetUS.com and do not miss out on the daily contest going on right now, even when playoff mode going on. And also go on to SeatGeek.com for $20 off of your first purchase by using promo code SnakeSports. Online at SeatGeek.com and also on your mobile device to Google Play in the App Store. It's Jake Silva signing off, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the Snake Sports Talk Show. Have a great night. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys.